All right. Hey there. Welcome to SharkCast Pod, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the world. For visual effect, I'm shaking a logo on a t-shirt. My name is Sam Shinazzi, OG 2015. 12th season coming up, kind of already started, of SharkCast Pod. Pleasure to bring it to you. Brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the legends at the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking, and our good mate Jason Hawes at Cripps & Cripps Real Estate. We urge you to check out those people and companies. This is the annual Christmas show, which we love doing, and we'll get to that in a second. I just want to say it's been a big year for both the Sharks and the pod. And at the end of the episode, we're going to read out a letter that we got just today about the pod to thank you all for making it the biggest season of the podcast ever. So whether you're a long-time listener or whether you are a newbie, we appreciate each and every one of you, and we're looking forward to a bigger and better and brighter 2026. This is the Christmas show where we give you our 12 wishes or thereabouts of what we want to happen next year for the mighty Cronulla Sharks. This was originally conceived by our good mate Jardian, and Jardian has joined us. He's on your TV right top. If you're watching, if you're listening, you'll hear his dulcet tones in 1 second. Jardian is high up in the corporation of the KO. He traveled the world this year with his tribe and continues to be the wise man of the SharkCast pod. For some reason, a lot of people call this the SharkCast pod. It's just SharkCast pod. Jards, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate you having me, and glad to be back here. It's been a little bit since I've been around, but I'm here on Brayley Island. There's not a lot of vacancies left. I'm pretty excited about that. And I didn't actually realize that this was year number 12. That actually led me to look up in my phone here who our squad was 12 years ago and who you would have been talking about. I didn't realize we had 6 captains that year. Paul Gallen, Wade Graham, Todd Carney, Jeff Robson, Luke Lewis, and John Morris. That must have been a cracking debut season for you as a podcaster.
Hey,
what a start.
It was better than the year before, let me tell you that. Now, you are the first to be introduced because you are the conceiver of this show. So we appreciate that. When I say show, I mean episode. Next up, we have Josh Bolling. He's our own Sharks analyst. We think potentially he's the youngest amongst our squad until someone else younger comes in, which could be any minute, let's face it. And it's been a big year for Joshy. I'm just going to say it right now. He settled down, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate the person he settled down with. We send her lots of love. She now has the pain of being a Sharks fan week in, week out. So we say hello to young Alex. But Josh, how you going, my friend?
I'm good. Happy to be joined by 4 bearded, beautiful men. Just noticed everyone bearded up.
Yeah, there you
4
go.
Bearded Sharks fans. Probably my 4th Christmas show, I think. So,
at least,
yeah. So one of my favorite shows of the year to do.
All right, and the other young man on the screen with probably the biggest beard right now, he's making his Christmas debut, but you know him from Monday mornings. He is a man which has seen his own show grow to such stature that now NRL squad members pick him out and go, hey, you're the SharkCast guy on Monday. So he knows our salary cap almost as well as Darren Mooney. Please give a big Christmas debut to Mr. Kieran Fraser.
Yes, normally applause. That's quite nice. My beard looks comically large at the moment because I've got a fresh haircut. It's something that I will rein back in the next few weeks. But coming into Christmas, there's no time for that. As anyone with young kids knows, this is a crazy time of year. So not powered by coffee tonight. I have had to make myself a Jack and Coke to get through this episode, and I'm bringing back the Las Vegas vibes that we started the year. So let's see how it all turns out.
I'm gonna crack a cold one right now. Everything's open on the record now. Kieran's drinking the booze. I'll drink the booze. Let's get into it very quickly. What happened last year? Okay, so 2024 going into 2025. If you didn't listen to the show, or of course if you did and you've forgotten, this is what we said. We wanted BHU to get fit. End of year, I'm going to give him a tick. Jardian Ormsby wanted Will Kennedy to prove the doubters wrong with a Dally M positional season. I mean, what foresight there, my friend. No, that's a thumbs up, dude. He led that thing for so long. We wanted no more Mr. Nice Guy for Nico. I think that's a tick by the end of the season. He was a pretty angry young man, which was great. We wanted the NRLW team to keep the momentum going from the year before and dominate. And they more or less did with a lot of injuries. They got to the prelim. This one, not so good. Well, this one's a 50-50. We had Las Vegas win on and off the field. So I think we can say we won off the field. We obviously didn't win on the field, though we put in a pretty good performance. We wanted a strong, healthy comeback for Jesse Colquhoun. That's a massive tick. We wanted to make home games special again and have the home fans pumped. And I think that's a big tick, mainly to our friends in the, what's the group called? The Shark Cage. That's what they are, the Shark Cage. So well done to them. We wanted a dominant forward pack with AFB. I think it was definitely improved. This one, not so good. We wanted to finish the Leagues Club. That's still a work in progress, literally. The continued evolution of Fitz's coaching. That was a Jardian one from memory, and I think there was some merit there. We wanted to make the grand final. We didn't do that. Wanted to win a premiership. Didn't do that. But that wasn't a bad bunch of predictions or hopes and desires, I thought. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, I think overall, like the predictions are what they are. They're kind of hopes and guesses. But I think for the majority of the ones you read out there, Sam, I think we did a pretty good job. Maybe we do sometimes know what we're talking about at times.
Sometimes, but that's not quite my point. I was just very happy that what we wanted kind of mostly, 3/4 of them came true. That's a pretty good year.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Vegas thing, obviously a few of us being there, I think we felt that vibe and we felt that excitement and anticipation of a great year. Like that got us off to a good start. Maybe that in the back end maybe got to us a little bit, but I think like the Jesse Colquhoun and the girls are having another good year. Like I think a lot of those predictions and just generally like the vibe carried over from 2024 to go to another prelim. I think it's a pretty successful tip sheet and year.
All right. Jardian, what about your Will Kennedy prediction or hope? I don't know what you want to call it, but
it's crazy to think just how fast out of the gates he actually did come, right? Like there were a few patches in the middle there which were a little bit tricky, and towards the end there were a couple patches there that were a little bit tricky, and it felt sometimes like in the same game we would see Will having his best moments in his Sharks career and like his worst moments in his Sharks career in the singular same game. But yeah, look, like at the very least we kind of knew that there was someone reliable there that people were familiar with the ball. So it just felt a lot more fluid when he was out there and we had the ball. Sure, there were other things that were happening defensively that we could have tidied up, but all in the whole, yeah, he did well.
All right. Well, let's not waste time because we've got 12 wishes to get through. It's actually going to be, we're going to mention 13, but only 12 we're going to list as the wishes. So Josh sent through the first one, which was re-sign Jesse Colquhoun and start molding him as a future captain. So I'm not going to include that one because I reckon he's going to sign with the Sharks. I don't think you need to wish for that, Josh. I don't know when it may be announced. It could be by the time we get off air. It could be in the new year. I think he's sticking around. So I think we'll regret using that as a wish, personally. We all hope it happens. Future captain, that was an interesting one, Josh. Do you want to talk about that briefly?
I just think the shift we saw in his attitude and the way the team shifted when he took the starting spot was really noticeable. And I think just like young guy, the rumors going around, he's a bit of the teacher's pet of Fitz, and just like really bright, intelligent, and a bloody good footballer. I just think there's all those things, and young, like what is he, 23, 24? Like I think he's got that potential to be like that Gallen, like that lock forward, follow me, not, follow me in that through actions, not so much words. But that intelligence, I think there's a lot of footy IQ that I think could be, there's a potential captain in there.
Kieran, you're our salary cap guy. Does it surprise you that I'm saying I think the Sharks will be able to keep him?
Well, the Sharks have something like 17 players off contract, right? So effectively, they could do whatever they want. They could, bin 10 of those guys, go out and buy an Australian level player if they wanted to, and then fill it up with minimum salary players. They're obviously not going to do that. But I think it's quite interesting to see how we balance it, because there are so many talented players off contract at once, and a team like Perth, who has an open checkbook, right, and has to get some names and get some scalps. So for me, I find it quite interesting that they've really prioritized chasing Jesse. I would have thought Cam would be high on that list as well, because you're looking for some of those leadership qualities. But it just shows that after 29 games over a couple of years, that people really want Jesse. And again, our whole style of football changed when he got into the team, right? So I don't think there'll be any issue in keeping him, but I think they'll have to work within the boundaries of what they've got, because of those 16 players, 17 players off contract, they'll want to keep the majority.
Jardian, what's your thoughts on Jesse Colquhoun?
He's a great example of the old saying that luck happens when preparation meets opportunity. I just felt like when we saw him come back there, like he felt like Popeye after eating a can of spinach. He was just a completely different person to the person that we had last seen of him last year. And not just that, but good things happened when he was out there. Like whether it was exclusively him or whether it was just part of a bigger plan and he so happened to be on the field when they happened. Good things happened when he was out there. And I think, I would be truly, truly disappointed if what you said at the top was not true. Like if we weren't able to squeeze him in, there are 17 people off contract. He's one of the first ones, like Joshua was saying, that we've got to make sure isn't one of those 17 that leaves.
Okay. Well, stand by, watch this space, and I got a feeling it's going to happen. And we'll move on to 2025 wishes. We're going to start with a few from Jardian. And the first one, I'm glad this has been mentioned, because we've mentioned this gentleman, I think, every year since doing Christmas shows. And the last few years they've been coming true, but the season just gone, it was like the big box under the tree with the big wrapping, and you open it up and it's just the best present ever. And this year, moving forward for 2026, this is both a Josh and Jard's one. Blake Brayley to take his game even further and also get an Origin jersey. Jardian, you are the people say I'm the owner of Blake Island, but you actually kind of suggested we needed an island for this man. So really you were the, I'm not going to say the word, you were the first people there, and I kind of came in as well and said, hey, I want a part of your land. But forget about that stupidity. Tell us about Blake and where you see him going, and shut up, Josh.
Very, very, very little of that is me, and a lot of that is Fitz. Like there were parts of Blake's game where it just felt like if he could be unlocked by someone, that he could do some special things. And I think this was the first year that it felt like this was the year that he arrived in that super duper star sense. Like it had been bubbling for a little bit, but this year he arrived, and it wasn't uncommon for commentators. Like that's kind of when you've made it. Like commentators would constantly talk about the impact that he was having, and it was a fantastic year from him. But I think the purpose of that wish is, if I recall what I said last year when we were talking about the same thing, or the year before, it was that as Blake goes, so too does kind of the whole team. Like he is the anchor being, as they would say in the Marvel universe, of this team. And so if he can get into a position where this is now becoming super consistent, which I think he nailed this year, which was one of the criticisms of his performances in the past, was that he could have these moments of brilliance, but sometimes we didn't always see it sustained. That assignment was ticked this year. He did that very well. And so there is another level for him to get to, and that level would be Origin picture. And I tell you what, if that Origin team had been picked at the end of the season, there's no doubt in my mind that he would have been in that Origin team. And I'll go as far as to say this: if Blake Brayley plays Origin this year, and if he maintains Origin form into the finals, no one will beat this team. It will not happen. If he performs like this, they will win the premiership. I will sell all my stocks in Brayley Island if that is not happening. If that doesn't happen, that's how confident in the man I am, and I'm willing to stand by that. Josh, bail me out here before I lose too much of my
Holy
stock
cow.
in this real estate.
We're winning the comp. Yeah.
I was nodding my head along with every single word you said. I completely agree. I just think, I think often fans generally get a little really scared of players playing Origin and, detracting from like the club and club first mentality. But you see so often that when players go there, they go to another level. And you see like the skill, the knowledge that you can get from being around guys like, Nathan Cleary or James Tedesco or whatever have you. That's how you get better. That's how you become the elite level players, and being around others and then dragging those guys who maybe aren't quite there at Clubland with you and showing them the way. So I really want it to happen. Going on that Australian trip must have been awesome for him experience wise, to be around literally the best players in the world in one unit. And like Jard said, like if he plays to a potential where he's picked in Origin and they can bring that back with him, like the sky is the limit for not only himself, but for the team.
Kieran, tell us about Blake Brayley Island.
Yeah, look, I definitely agree that the New South Wales jersey should be his next year. I mean, Robson going to the Chooks, he's going to be in a good system, playing with a lot of Origin players. I can see the narrative that they'll try and spin there. But I think objectively, Blake's outperformed him in the last couple of seasons. And the knock on Blake has been he's not as big as Robson and all that type of stuff. But this year, he's just showed he doesn't need to be, right? He can make the tackles. He can get through 50 tackles and then still set up 3 tries and, be dangerous with the kicking game, passing game, but his running game is his real highlight. So, I fully would expect him to be on the Kangaroo World Cup squad at the end of the season. So I would expect that he would add an Australian jersey officially to his resume. I do feel a little bit bad for him. It's kind of like that Nico Hines syndrome that Nico found himself in a few years ago, where Nico was like the 17th man at the Storm in the grand final, doesn't get on the field, was the 18th man for Origin, didn't get on the field. And I want Blake to kick through that door, and I want him to really be in that fight with Harry Grant, because talent-wise, he's in that fight. And this year, I would argue that he outperformed Harry Grant. And I actually think Harry Grant is the best player in the NRL competition week to week, most years. And I think Blake had the wood on him this season, right? So I'm not saying Blake is better than Harry, because Harry's done it for a number of years. But now Blake's putting himself in that conversation where if he gets that 9 jersey for the Blues, the Sharks start rolling through the finals, then people can really start to have that conversation. And that's what I'd love to see from Blake.
There is a chance that he gets the 14 or whatever, but I'm hoping he gets the 9. Just throw him in. We know he can do it. They say it's the highest level. Throw him in, see what he can do. He's not going to let you down, that's for sure. All right, Blake, he gets another mention every year. We love him that much. I do have a little music here I've got to play as I throw in the next one. Pretend I played this before and everything will be cool. Next up, we have from Josh and Jardian. We have no major injuries, which I think we can all agree on. That's from Joshy. But Jardian in particular has said a Cronulla Shark he wants to see play without any injury at all. And that is young Jada Taylor from the NRL dub. Fantastic talent. She showed a lot of that spark when she came back for the 3 or 4 games, however many it was, at the end of the season, just gone. And I'm pretty confident if that team doesn't have all those injuries, they make a grand final. I'm not sure if they win it, but they were 1 game better than what they showed in the end, I thought. Let's go back to you, Kieran. Injuries. They're a bugger for every team, but if you can have one of those seasons, you can do something special.
I think that's kind of the frustrating thing about the window that we're in. Like this year, we didn't have the injuries that we had in 24. And I did go back and listen to a bit of that Christmas episode, and you were kind of talking about Nico in 24. He missed like the last 2 months basically going into the finals, right? He was on one leg playing in the semis. Whereas this year, we went into the finals and we were pretty much at full strength. Yes, Cam wasn't there and there was a few other bits and pieces, but it's not at the level of, we're missing Hamlin Ueli, who's our front rower, Royce Hunt, who was our, next front rower up, like against South, in 2022 or whatever it was. Jesse's been injured going into the finals. Sif has been injured going into the finals. So the fact that everybody was actually fit, I think it's so hard to do consistently. I do have grave concerns going into next year, because I just think that maybe this year was the year that we had that really good run with injuries. Because to get to that point, you look at Brisbane this year. Brisbane had their key guys fit. They had Carrigan, Reece Walsh, Huss, all their key guys were fit and firing, and that's what we need.
I mean, I have to say that the staff last year got him in a good shape. As you said, most of the year, relatively injury-free, like give or take. I understand what you're saying. Like, it's a lot to do with luck as much as anything else. Obviously, it's wear and tear, but there's no reason why we can't replicate that. But again, that's where luck comes into it, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, it's not as if they're going to go out and the high-performance staff who's done such a great job this year is going to put in a bad effort for next year, right? Or the players' bodies are going to suddenly break down because obviously they have so much testing and metrics around the workloads and things like that. I just think there is such a element of luck that is involved in having everybody healthy at the same time because it is so hard to do across all sports. You look at the Australian cricket team right now, you look at the NBA or any of these sports, right? To get your full roster as fit 1 through 17, it's almost impossible, right? So all you can hope to do is just limit the damage and get to September, October and be as fit as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Josh, you mentioned no injuries, full stop. And I guess the reason is because when you're at your fittest, you're at your best. Last year was pretty good. You want to see more of that.
Yeah, and I also think it's the cohesion as well, right? Like we've seen interrupted seasons where just guys being in and out constantly week after week or playing 3 weeks out for 2, like it's really disruptive. And we didn't get our back 5 together until the last game of the season, I think it was, or the second last game of the season. So, and even in that small sample size of how much better we looked when we had our best players all together. And it's like what Kieran was saying, like it's you got to be pretty lucky to get that 1 to 17. And we had, for the most part, probably at 15 or 16 of our best players. So we did get lucky, but I think it does come down to, again, like the training regime and the work that all the players put in. There is an element of luck, and there is an element of have you worked hard enough? You've seen South got decimated. Is that luck, or is there a training thing there? I think there was even rumors they've sacked some of that department because of how many injuries they had. So you want to be lucky, but I think you get what you put in. You get out what you put in, and I think if the players put in like they did last preseason, you reap the benefits of that. Obviously, there's some unlucky, like Ronaldo doing his ACL. That's just like he would have done that 200 times in the season, that exact same fall and bracing of the leg. You just can't help some of those things. So just minimize.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad we've got such great backups in a lot of positions, not all, but a lot of them. And we saw that with Billy Burns as an example, like he just stepped up and dominated. Jardian, talk to me about Jada Taylor, the pocket rocket out the back. Phenomenal athlete. She's re-signed for at least a year or 2 more, I believe, with a big future ahead of her. She's only young. You're obviously a big fan.
I'm a big fan of the team as a whole. Like I watched a lot of our women's team last year, Sam, and one of the things that I think was true, and one of the reasons for the wish being centered around Jada and her health, was that I felt like in the prelim against the Roosters, they took them to the absolute brink. I was so proud of the way that the girls played that night. I think it was like at one point in the end, and it came down to the final possession, which we had. That Roosters team and the Broncos women's team, like they're stacked. Like you want to talk about first movers advantage in sport. Those two teams have like they're kind of like the Chelsea and the Arsenal in the women's Super League over in football. Like they have just gotten this advantage from moving so fast, and it feels like we're kind of on the next tier down from them. So for them to take them right to the brink there, I thought was so impressive. However, I felt like the way that the girls played during the season was very inconsistent and not necessarily the best football that we could have had. I felt like they underachieved in terms of regular season football, definitely showed up when it mattered the most. And I think like Jada not being there was a little bit of that. We're fortunate that we have incredible cover with Emma Veron there. Like she's a super duper star, and like we're really lucky to have her there. But I think it's better, like if you can be blessed with options here, and if you can bring Jada in to fullback, like that's a great problem to have there, is to figure out. Because I actually think that both Jada Taylor and Emma Veron are actually like natural born fullbacks. Like I think Emma's going to have to shift into that halves role by necessity to have Jada out there. Not all too dissimilar from a little bit like how Preston had to kind of move into the halves at first because he was just too good not to have out there. And hopefully Emma Varian can do that once, and maybe Jada is a little bit like that Preston pocket rocket type there. But like if she can be healthy, I think the regular season, like the first 11 rounds or whatever it ends up being, can be a lot smoother for the girls, and they'll get into the finals in a better run if they can kind of get some combos going with Emma in the halves.
You'd have to think that their season was just off the tracks the whole time from the first game where they had someone out for the whole year with, I think, an ACL. But every game there was an injury, and it happens, but they actually were serious injuries every week. But then they had really great things like Georgia Hanaway was playing 5/8, I believe, and killing it. But then they moved her to hooker when Quincy Dodd was out for most of the year. And then Georgia Hanaway became like the best hooker in the game. And then Dodd came back. And so they're able to switch people around. So there's a lot of versatility in the Sharks NRLW team. But you don't want to have to do that. You want to have the same 17 every week. So I do expect them to have a more consistent season and really fight for that title. So we'll see what happens there. But they've done really well over the last few years. So there's no reason to think they won't be amongst it. Now, we're going to stay with a lighter wish from Jardian, and that is he would like a SharkCast gathering at Magic Round. I'd like him to explain that to all of us and everyone listening and watching, please.
I don't know if it's just the married father of 4 kids in me whose social life is slowly dwindling down to a whole bunch of nothing, but holy cow, I didn't get to do Vegas. I haven't gone we're this far into Magic Round, and surprisingly, despite working at the NRL for many years, I still haven't had my Magic Round experience. I'm ready to just go whole hog and be like, you know what, this is the year. If we're not going to win a premiership, we are going to win an incredible night out somewhere, doing a not just gathering, Sam. Like there's got to be a recording. There,
okay.
a live recording there. That's my wish. That's my selfish wish for myself, in the which I am the primary beneficiary of that of that wish.
Okay, well, Kieran's already locked in. Josh, we could twist his arm pretty easily, I reckon. We'll work on that one. What I do want to say though is I think that Kieran and I have already spoken about getting out a bit more to, shall we say, regional areas that aren't the Sutherland Shire. And nice. And wherever we go, we'll take the mics, and we'd love to meet people and do a show and that kind of thing. So we're definitely looking into that kind of thing. Magic Round, the only slight issue I'll say, Jardian, is that every podcast goes up there and tries to do a show, and that's fine. We just got to find somewhere to do it and that kind of thing. But we've got a few weeks to work it out. So I appreciate that one. We'll see if that one can come true. And it would be a lot of fun. Now, Kieran, have you been to one?
No, I've never done a Magic Round. But again, I go back in my head and I think, how many road trips have I actually done, like outside of New South Wales, to support the Sharks? I did Melbourne this year, and it was unbelievable. Like the supporting group there that was there, the meetup that they organised was unreal. If we get a SharkCast one up there, it would be absolutely phenomenal. So I cannot wait to get there. And I actually went and booked mine, Jards, because everybody always says, we'll go to Magic Round, but no one gets around to booking it. So I put a line in the sand. I've got like 4 different groups of people that are telling me that they're going with me. I've bought a single ticket that is refundable. I can cancel it and sit with my friends, but someone's got to make the call. So follow me, Jards, and make a book.
All right. We're in.
Interesting.
We're done.
Follow Kieran. It's
probably worth calling out too that like the Bulldogs are a great game for us to be playing. I think we're on the Friday night. We're gonna open that
first game. Yeah.
First game. Like that's cool. That's something.
I like being the first team. That's good. Josh, you haven't been to one, have you?
No, I haven't, but I'm doing Vegas again this year. So money may be a little tight.
I need like a drum roll or something. Wow. Okay, and who are you going to be supporting over there? The Las Vegas economy.
Yeah, Vegas economy. So my dad and brother are massive Dragons fans, and my whole family love America. Yeah, boo. My whole family, like Vegas is one of their favorite places, and
Cool.
But Dad's health has been a bit up and down, so we thought, like, well, let's do a big treat for him now that he's on the mend and go and spend a week in Vegas, and yeah, he'll love it. Like, and I mean, I know the experience now. Like, I want it again. So I'll see how we go. I'll see how we're tracking after Vegas gets its hands on me.
Do you think the person we mentioned at the start of the show would go along with you as well? The other Sharks fan in your life?
She's locked in.
That becomes very interesting then, doesn't
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Shotgun wedding.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking proposing, Kieran, but you went all the way, and I appreciate that. No pressure on Joshy. Okay, next up, what do we got here? Let's go with a Kieran and Josh request. The Sharks move on some players and change their roster with an origin level talent as well as promotion within. And I'm assuming that's end of 26, which still counts. So near future, we're talking end of season next year. It still counts. You guys want to see a bit of a change in the roster, which is probably coming anyway. But Kieran, do you want to explain your side of that?
Well, the origin level player I was talking about was Ryan Pappenhausen, and I'm going to keep pushing that agenda until I speak that into existence and manifest it. I realize how unlikely it is to happen, but hey, somebody's got to push that barrel, so I'll push it. But I just feel like this squad's been together now since Fitzy got here. Fitz got here in 2022?
Yep.
And we're now going in 2026. The results have been great, don't get me wrong. And again, I will stand on that hill and say the results have been great. Look at other teams that started off with us at the same time with a new coach. I go to the Cowboys and look at the situation that they're in right now. We've been consistently in the top 4 since Fitz has been at the club. So I just feel like now a lot of those players are hitting that 28 to 31 range in age. And I just think it's time for a change. I think it's time for some players below them to get their chance and to potentially grab that jersey. And I think it will naturally happen with some guys that we have off contract in that 16, 17 players. So for me, I would like to see a bit of a freshen up, because I just think if you get to the end of 2026 and we look the same and we play the same and we finish in a prelim again, you run the risk of becoming like South did, right? Now, obviously our roster is a lot younger than South, but the scars that carries and all that type of stuff. South eventually got to a grand final, but they didn't really fire a shot in that either. So, yeah, look, I just feel like it's time for a change. And, we have some really great players in our lower grades. And if we don't give them that chance, they will go elsewhere too, right? So I feel like there are a number of players, and I don't want to call them out, but I feel like we've seen their peak. And this time last year, Fitz gave an interview where he was talking about the 3 stages of a player when they go to re-sign them. Like, does this player have more? Are they at their peak, or are they starting to enter the decline? And I would argue, unfortunately, there would be a few of those guys who might be at that peak or about to enter that decline during that duration of that next contract. So for me, I'd like to see some cheaper, younger guys coming through to give us a chance to try and land a bit of a bigger fish.
Well, we know Michael Gabriel's getting closer. We know Jesse Ramian is off contract and looking for a decent check. We know that, who else was I thinking? Will Kennedy only has the 1-year deal. Liam Eisen is pushing through. So there might be a natural evolution there, depending on form and that kind of thing. Jardian, what are your thoughts on the changing of a roster end of next season coming?
I'm there with the sentiment. I think if you can't win a premiership, your obligation is to extend the window that you have to win it. And there's a lot of players in there who, I don't know, I feel very similar to Kieran. I think if you were to extend some of the people who maybe are in the crosshairs at the moment of a contract negotiation, I don't know if that actually extends the window or closes it faster. Because there's a few things that I think we saw. It's like, maybe it is time to introduce some new young blood, if only to free up some resources there. And the Pappenhausen thing is interesting because for me, I just get closer and closer to thinking that you really need an origin level spine to kind of be serious about winning a premiership. And when I'm looking through kind of like the fullback position of people that have won premierships in the recent past, like we were talking about, like the Dylan Edwards types of the world, like your Pappenhausens, like your Reece Walshes. Like, we're getting to the point now where I don't know that you can kind of carry a below average fullback into a grand final and like feel confident about coming in there. And I'm not saying that Will is a below average fullback. I'm just saying that I think you need to have that origin level type player. They don't have to be an origin player, but they have to be at the level of an origin, player in order to like have a fair shake of it. So I'm kind of there with the sentiment that like there probably needs to be change. I think we've learned, I think we've squeezed in as much as we can out of this lemon from some of the group that's there. And, it's time to just introduce some new fruit there.
How does Braden Trindle fit into that spine as far as origin level? Like, at his best, he's unbelievable. He's an above average player. He's young. He's only going to get better. But how does he fit into that argument, Jardian, of having an origin spine?
Well, I think he was probably the one that did a lot of the heavy lifting for periods of the year there. And if you can kind of get that, like, you're right, like he's a little bit shy of that origin level, but that's a lot more about the level than it is about him that you need to be at to be consistent in that space. And we're in a situation where we talk a little bit about having to shave a few dollars elsewhere in order to free up some money in your power positions, if that's what you want to call it. He's an example of someone who's actually on a pretty friendly contract for what he delivers there. So he would not be the person that I would be like looking to find some savings on. I think we're getting incredible savings and incredible bang for buck out of him. If we can just kind of, it sometimes felt like we were getting one of two great halves per night, but like, I don't know that we really saw 2 10 out of 10 halves on the same night. Like, there were some weeks where Braden would take over. There were other weeks when like Nico would absolutely dominate Rock. And like, if we can get them on having great weeks consistently at the same time with that, Pappenhausen level, if that, like, whoever it is in that fullback position with origin player Blake that we spoke about at the top of the show there, this team will be very, very hard to stop and playing behind an incredibly big pack as well.
Joshy, your thoughts on you requesting this to happen?
Yeah, I just think it's the inevitability of sport, right? I think you just squad turnover at the right time is really crucial. And I think we're at a stage now where it's like, if we could shed, like, even if it's just 2 to 3 and just get some new faces in, maybe some slightly younger legs, and whether that's either replacing from within, like we've all mentioned numerous times, we've got plenty of talented young kids coming through that are just about ready to take that step, or to see if they're ready to take that step. And there's going to be plenty of opportunities in the market over the next 24 months of with the new contract. Was it that 27 that new cycle comes in, or is it 28?
What are you talking about? Sorry,
the new TV contract.
Yeah.
So I think the new TV.
Jards would know that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, Jards would know, definitely.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's not allowed to talk. That's right. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Josh.
Yeah, so I think just with around that, and there's a lot of people coming off contract for that reason. I know it's coming. So, like, a lot of managers set those contract negotiations so they're able to go big for that next TV deal. So there's going to be plenty of options. There always is. Every time we go, how are we going to find a player? When do we get AFB out of? Absolutely nowhere. Like, things are always moving in the background that we're not aware of. So I just think it's time to just a little freshen up. Most of the pieces are there. I just think we just probably need one elite player. We all pretty much agree that it's fullback. But anyway, if we got an elite, top 3 center, like that would be a big coup. But I think like the fullback's obviously priority, and just maybe like a little center position, maybe a back row, or like just somewhere. Just need a few pieces tinkered with.
Look, I completely agree with what you're saying there, Josh, man. And I just think that, like, how big of a difference do you think there is between Kale Iro, Jesse Ramian, and Shibasaki and Stags?
I think more it's big time, big moments. Like, Stags is probably not as consistent as an Iro or a Jesse in previous years, but I think Stags, like, when the moment demands it, he usually delivers. And I think we've seen Shibasaki do that as well with Queensland.
Yeah, and I guess the point that I'm making is I would take both those guys in our team, right? And would I take them over Ramian? Well, I definitely would take Stags over Ramian.
Yeah.
Shibasaki, maybe not, but again, that's kind of not the point. I think what point I'm just trying to say is we're pretty good everywhere. Like our back rowers are good. Like our front rowers, we've got AFB. Blake Brayley is good. Like our halves are, they're up there. It's. I feel like even if we got like a kick out or something like that, he'd be great to get, but I don't think he would change that much for us. I think the one like nuclear bomb that we need is fullback, because we're not going to be able to move on Nico. Like if that's the road that people want to go down, if people want to go, all right, well, I want to go get Tom Dearden or something like that. Like it's not a possibility, right? I think the only possibility that would actually move the needle significant for us is that fullback. And I feel like, let's say, I would be stoked if we got Katoni Stags. Like it would be unreal, or Bradman Best, or something like that. It would be just a shui hit though, because I just don't feel like it would. I feel like we'd be in the same position. So I agree with your point. Like we got to get someone that's going to raise the bar. But in my head, I'm going, where would it actually be impactful outside of fullback? And I genuinely can't find an answer, because like our wingers are good. Our back rowers are good. Our front rows, like maybe a second front rower might make a difference, like next to AFB, because the drop between him and say Hazelton or Toby, BHU, whoever, Kafusi is that next one up. Maybe that's it. I just don't know. But yeah, look, it could be a center. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying in my head, like I feel like it's lazy that I keep going back to fullback. So I'm trying to work out where else it could be.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense when you say it that way, Kieran. It does, because like okay, Jesse had an off year, but you're right. Bringing in a new center, like a strike center for heaps of money. Okay, there might be an increase upload there to a degree, but unless it's like Mark Gasnier in 2005 or whatever, it's not gonna elevate you that much.
Yeah, and I think that's what Josh was saying too, right? So again, like I'm not picking on that point. I'm trying to rack my brain and go like,
yeah, and I think the way I picture it is that if you can downgrade, and again, I'll pick on Jesse Ramian here, but if you downgrade that contract and put a Gabriel in, I think that, that spark of youth and wanting to prove yourself can lift the squad. And not only that, you save cash then to be able to go and chase that big fullback. So I think the turnover of decreasing 3 contracts by 200 grand each, getting new face in, but all these guys want to prove themselves, like we saw with Jack Bird and Val Holmes, and then you go and get that gun fullback. It just balances out the squad so much nicer.
Yes, it's kind of like addition by subtraction in a sense, because you might be going down, but also too, you're bringing in unpredictability, speed, and somebody that they don't have 5 years worth of game footage on as well, right? So yeah, I definitely take the point. It's just I'm just trying to work out where else we could do it, because again, 100%, I'm all on board that we need an upgrade at fullback, just because of where we keep being.
The big unknown and the big, I think, leap of faith you will see is Liam Eisen. Now, he's going to take some time. I don't expect him to be Origin level within a year, but once he gets his shot, and say it's halfway through next year, I don't know, he's got to come back from a ACL, but the guy that you're talking about, Kieran and Josh, he might be there on a really small contract, and his name might be Liam Eisen. It's an unknown, because we've only seen one NRL game. We've seen a bunch of him at lower grades. He's been really good, but whether he's going to be the equivalent of a Pappenhausen or something, obviously that's a very big ask of him. But what I'm saying is he'll be different to Will Kennedy, that's for sure.
Yeah, and who was Ryan Pappenhausen before he made his NRL debut, right? He was a guy at the Tigers who couldn't get a start. He was stuck behind Tedesco. He just needed that chance. And you can make the same argument for, Jack Bird when we first got him, right? He was a guy that was highly rated in the juniors, but just couldn't get a chance, or the Dragons might have thought he was a few years down the track, that type of thing, right? So for me, I look at it and go, I would love it if Eisen could win that number 1 jersey, Gabriel wins, say, the number 3 jersey, and now all of a sudden you've got guys on half the money of their predecessors. Well, maybe not in Wilkes' case because of the contract this year, but it gives you so much freedom and flexibility to buy in the market. And that's when I go back, is where do you spend the money in the market? Because yes, I definitely want a new fullback if we're doing that. But then if Eisen's won the job,
I think you go for that big prop.
Yeah, I think so. And we've also got 3 props, right, off contract. We've got Kafusi, Hamlin-Ueli, and Toby, all off contract, I think, going into this offseason, right? So that leaves you on the books. Tuku's off contract too. Shout out to SharkCast, big fan, Tuku. So you really then only have on the books Hazelton and AFB in the middle, and then you've got a chance really to change. Maybe Kafusi did a 2-year deal, so Kafusi might not be off at the moment as well. But, yeah, a lot of moving parts there. But then also, too, Riccio was talking about Felix and how impressive he was looking in the preseason. In the photos I saw of him, he looks like a different person. So maybe he takes that step up as well. But, it's pretty hard to be a front row in the NRL these days at that age. So,
yeah.
One of the things, Sam, that I think was one of the cooler experiences from working, at the NRL and previously at Fox Sports there was that occasionally they would bring in like coaches, high-performance coaches of either rugby league teams or, any sports team to talk at town halls and things like this. And I'll never forget one coach who came in and said something that I thought, I won't say who it is because, they're still around, but they came in and said something that I've never forgotten. They've said, your team culture doesn't have to follow the ball, but the money does. So, like, the culture of the team is not necessarily set by the people who have the ball in their hands all the time. But generally speaking, the money needs to flow to the people who have the ball in their hands a lot. So, like, it makes sense that, like, when you're looking at where you want to spend your money, like, fullback is a position where they touch the ball a lot. Front row is a position where they're going to be holding that pill a lot. And then you've got it in their halves. Like, it's I've never forgotten that adage kind of from the moment I heard it. And I think, it wouldn't be misplaced to kind of, I think it backs up what everyone's saying here, that, like, if you're going to make some changes, like, maybe that's, the mentality that you would have to apply to get the most out of what you need.
All right. Let's move on to the next wish. And I'll do this one for Jardian, who's going to leave us at some point. But this one, surprise, surprise, is from our friend Clinton, who sends his apologies, can't be here. But Clinton would like to find a benefactor for the ground upgrade / remodel. It's time for an alternative to the thinking because he wants everyone to be reminded of this fact. And I believe it when he says it. And he's a man who knows things. But just for everyone listening, it's Clinton's opinion. No government will ever be on board at this point in time or in the next 10, 15, 20 years to give us a new stadium. And I tend to agree with him, but that's his field of work, so I'm not going to argue that fact. But Clinton wants to find a benefactor for either the upgrade or the remodel of Shark Stadium, or as we call it now, Ocean Protect Stadium. Jardian, I'll let you lead with this one. How do we do this?
I have run out of options. Like, we've discussed this at
every
museum so much. Every year, I'm exhausted by it.
Still relevant.
It's still relevant. All I know is that if you want to be a world-class team, you need world-class facilities. And bless Shark Park.
Now, Jardian, keep on track of the question. How do we get the ground? Question. I know you think that we should have a stadium like the one in the city. And you've said in the past that maybe we should play there sometimes. The question is, how do we find a benefactor for the ground for either an upgrade or a remodel?
What's his name from 20, 30 years ago? The benefactor who wasn't really a benefactor. Is he still around?
Gow?
No. I don't know.
The insurance fraud guy.
The insurance. Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, now that I say that, I think I know a little bit about that. I think Clinton's very calculated in his use of the word benefactor because it's hard to turn on the television and feel that we're going to get that government support.
Yes.
It's tricky to get government funding in a lot of things. And I'm talking like Clinton's got exposure to other industries, so he understands where all the other money could go to. But it seems like benefactor, or just like, can we find a rich celebrity? Like, can we get LeBron James or like someone who's some super megastar that's investing money in sports teams to just come and, do the same for us? Because if we can do that, like, that's probably the clearest pathway, which in and of itself kind of shows you how far away this whole thing is. Like, that a benefactor is the clearest pathway right now to that new stadium.
Well, I think you just touched on it, mate. Like, we need a famous NBA athlete, and Tyrese Proctor, who is from the Southern Shire, has just been drafted to Cleveland, right? So, let's all get behind him. Let's hope that he was at Shark Park at a game this season. So let's hope that he gets a supermax contract and he gets 3 or 4 of those, and then moves back to the Shire, and it would be pocket change for him to build a stadium, probably at his old house. If he really wanted to do that, he could just knock down like a whole block of houses in the Shire and just put it there with the money that's in the NBA.
Can I ask, how's he going? Give me an update on his career.
I don't watch many Cleveland games. I'm pretty busy at the moment. I don't know about you, Jards, but I do know at the start of the season, I did catch some of his highlights and things like that because he's a Shire guy. And he was actually exceeding expectations and was getting a lot of raps. And the people were sort of saying it was a bit of a steal in the draft for Cleveland to pick him up where they did. So
and he's a starter recently. He's a starter?
No, he's an off the bench for the player, but I think he's projecting to be a starter. Maybe if he was at a worse team, he could be a starter, but he's at a pretty decent side right now.
Okay, and we've got.
He played 2.5 minutes today. By the way, he played today.
Give that man a max contract. It happened in like 2015 where all these players were getting max contracts and these guys that weren't getting on the floor, they were getting $200 million. It can happen. We've got
the fellas in Las Vegas who own the Cosmo where you stayed, Kieran, and I think that's where we recorded our show there over a few Jack and Cokes.
Exactly.
Now they have a lot of money, right? And I'm of the opinion, completely uneducated on this subject, that they could afford to give us a new stadium, name it after themselves. There's a new stadium, right? There are, and I'm not going to name names, there are very well-off people on the board, and usually well-off people hang out with other well-off people. I think, was it Ben Harlem in America? Not so well-off, although I think he's doing okay. He spread word that the guys in the pop band 5 Seconds of Summer are Sharks fans. Now they got a bit of coin behind them, probably not enough to buy a stadium, but they're not struggling. We got Dan McPherson, the actor. There's lots of. We got Brendan Cowell, the actor. Let's not leave out our own Brendan Cowell, big Sam Street
Jason
fan, right, Josh?
Sells his house in Cronulla, mate. He could pay for it with the house that he's got.
I mean, your friend Ben Ross is not short of $1. My point is, we're going down a list here, but my point is there are people who love the Sharks who could probably do something or get something going. It's not an impossibility. That's a big ask to ask someone to build a stadium. I get it. I'm just sort of spitballing here. But I think if we want it bad enough, you want something bad enough, you make it happen. And something's got to happen, as Jardian tells us most weeks. Because, in all seriousness, the government thing's not coming. And whether the club keeps pursuing that or not, I'm not sure. That's up to them. That's their prerogative. But you'd think it's very unlikely. Does anyone have any more thoughts on this before we move on?
Look, I'll just win a major jackpot in Vegas and I'll pay for it myself.
Yeah. So last time you tried that, I was next to you and it didn't work. And you were not alone.
All right at blackjack. I did all right at blackjack. That was Gary that was struggling.
The night I'm thinking of, no one did okay, and everyone was struggling. But yes, you are going to Vegas, and if you can bring home enough for a stadium, who knows, Josh? Maybe you'll have your big day at the stadium, and that'll be great. Now, let's move back to some rugby league. This is from Clinton as well. He wants to see the continuation of the style of football we played in round 26 against the Bulldogs and in the finals, in all 3 finals. And that is the tough defensive footy, still attractive with the ball, but that tough defensive footy, that line in the sand, kind of don't push us around. He wants to see that from round 1 and throughout the year, which is going to be difficult to replicate for the whole year, but I'm 100% with him. I'd love to see it from round 1 too. Josh, do you think this is possible?
No, I think you have to pick your moments when you go up and down in the gears over a course of a season. I completely agree that is the style to play in the finals and big games and grand finals and such, but it's unsustainable. And I think it would be unfair to the players to demand that every week. That is the blueprint, though. I think that style against the Dogs, the Raiders, all the finals games. That's how I want us to be playing when it matters. But But I just don't think it's feasible to expect them to play that over the course of a year, 27 rounds.
Because it's too physically demanding.
Yeah,
Like
it's just it's too much. Like that style, like it's exhausting, And I think we sometimes forget that they are human, and that like the bumps and the bruises and the athletic, the cardio, all that stuff, it catches up with you, and that's why they pick their blocks throughout the year, the 4 and 5 blocks, because they know they can't do that, and that's how injuries happen as well. So I think we just got to be careful with that.
Is there a way, Kieran, you could pick game by game, or is that getting too fruity and fancy? Like if you were playing a team that you expected to win, you didn't have to maybe put that full physical force into it, or is that getting a bit risky?
Well, I think it's a little bit risky, right? But I think it has to come down to a mentality shift, right? And I think Josh was kind of on the mark there, where he sort of said like the intensity levels to do that week in and week out is just off the charts, right? And also to the media attention that attitude would bring us with the press conferences that we were doing, the way we were responding to questions, kind of like chest out, up me, up you. That's not the Sharks, right? And I think that would just bring such a pressure if we've got Nico coming out in round 2 barking back at people, right? Behind closed doors, completely different, right? So what I would like to see from the Sharks is a healthy arrogance of like, you know what? Over the last 4 years since we've been together, we've won 80% of our games, right? And if you look at the 20% of those games, how many times were we actually blown off the park? How many times did we actually put in a poor performance or not live up to our standards? I reckon it's probably a handful, to be honest, mate. The reason why we as Sharks fans are so agitated is because so many of those losses, and we can go back to last season, the game versus Canberra, the game versus West Tigers, the game versus Brisbane, they bottled it. They didn't have that ability to close out and get it done, right? And I think if we can go back to the drawing board and go, you know what, let's take some confidence out of this. And let's take some confidence out of the fact that when we turn up, we get things done and people can't go with us when we go, right? Maybe Penrith has been the only team we can't say that against, but we've beaten Melbourne. We've beaten Brisbane. We should have beaten Brisbane in Brisbane. And if we did that, we finished top 4. The whole finals is completely different, right?
And so the bottling of it is a different mentality to the physicality, correct?
So what I think, right? So I go back to the bottling, right? Where maybe sometimes we've been too soft with some of this stuff, right? The style of football the Sharks were playing at the end of the season was exactly the style of football I was hoping we would play from the start of the season, right? Kick in the front door, then get Brayley out of dummy half and throw it to the edges where we've got a lot of strike, right? Once we did that, we went on a great run. Throughout parts of the season, we were going side to side. Our halves were going side to side. Like, it just wasn't that aggressive mentality, right? So I think if you've got that aggressive mentality on the field, then you should be okay. But if you have that aggressive fit playing style with an aggressive mindset, you will wear yourself down over the course of 28, 30 weeks, right? So it's about having that arrogance and that confidence that I say this about AFB, not in a negative way at all. He is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Such a nice person. But he walks into a confrontation and he's like, I'll win this. Like, I don't care. Like, put Payne Haas against me, I don't care. Put Hargraves against me, I don't care. I'll go over the top of you. And I think if we can permeate that throughout our team, I think it's going to be important. And I think if you can get him in a leadership role this offseason, it's going to be extremely important, because if you look at the start of the season, there's no Cam McInnes in the forwards and there's no Ronaldo in the backs. So you need somebody to take that leadership and step up that hasn't been there traditionally.
All right, Jardian, any thoughts on the playing style?
I actually felt like Fitz showed us some things as a coach last year that he hadn't shown us prior to that. I think he showed so many different looks there. There were a couple of games where he had some funky combinations out there, and we won. And I think, there were times when he went the football equivalent of small ball. Like, I think we might have had one patch out there where we had like 4 back rowers out on the field at the same time. We're just running people off the park. It was phenomenal. I think there's probably a little bit like Brett, like there's another level for Fitz to get to as well. And if he can continue to tweak that, like, I'm not sure, like, however people feel about Flano now, like, he was fantastic at that when he was coaching the Sharks. When we won the premiership, he was like what Joshie was saying before, like, you've got to pick your moments to raise your voice in the locker room. You can't do it all season long, because eventually, like, it just tires people. So as idyllic as it would be to be, riding everyone all week, every week, A good coach is probably just going to know that there'll be off days. They'll plan for off days. Like no one ever prepares to lose, but when they do lose, they'll quickly have a plan to correct that in the fastest way possible. And I think I actually think that the first 10 rounds and the last 5 rounds are what you really want to get right. Like that origin period in the middle is so hokey for everyone that like it's hard to know what you have regardless of the results when you're measuring that period in the middle. Like it's hard to know if you're good because other teams are missing players, and it's hard to know if other teams are bad because they're missing players. That first 10 rounds when everyone's healthy and the last 5 rounds as you kind of to build a bit of a run in. It's not the be all and end all, but I think it probably says a lot more to me. And per what Kieran was saying before, like you have to coach your team to finish in the top 4. Like it's just borderline impossible now to win a premiership unless you're coming from that top 4. Like there are ways it can be done, and it has been done in the past, but it's getting harder and harder and harder to win that premiership if you're having to play all those weeks. Even if you win in the top 4 and you miss that first week, like it's hard to get there. So like I would probably just be coaching at the pace of the top 4 at the time. So if I'm comfortably in the top 4 and we're halfway through the season, I'm probably going to take my foot off the gas. I mean, I'm not going to say that out loud as a coach. I'm not going to go on the record and saying, yeah, we're going to battle. But if we're comfortably in the top 4 and then at other parts of the season, if we're just kind of teetering on the edge, that's when you put your foot down. So I'm okay for the coaching staff to kind of let the pressure points be determined by their proximity to that top 4 spot.
The only thing I'd push back on there, Jards, is I think that last year, if we took the origin period even half seriously, we would have finished well in the top 4. Like they really went off the rails there. I don't know why, and that's what led to the big coaching talk that they had midweek after the Brisbane game. But I just think that I agree with what you're saying. Like it is a weird period, but they should have done a lot better, and Matt would have had them higher. Maybe they get a week off. I don't know. But yeah, I'm one of those people that's very unrealistic about football sometimes, where I want them to play like they finished. I'm with Clinton, like play like that every week. Like, why can't you do it? Like, I get it. Okay, you can't do it. It's that physical. But I do hope that we've turned a corner. And even if it's just what Kieran was saying about shutting out those close games. And again, Canberra, Brisbane, throw in West Tigers, you finishing maybe second, like that's how important it is. And I bang on about it quite a lot. I want these guys, particularly the younger guys, to realize the opportunities they have, because you're not always going to be a top 4 team. Maybe you won't always be in a finals team. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen, but you're on a great ride with a great coach, great squad. You got to make the most of it. And last year, once they had the kick up the bum, I thought they did that. Even in the Melbourne game, okay, there's a couple of regrettable moments, but they didn't back down. So I think we saw enough improvement there for another good year this year. Now, again, this is a lighter one from Clinton, but very serious stuff for a lot of us. Clinton would like to find a new Chinese restaurant operator. Now, Gary, who's not with us at the moment and may not join us, we'll see what happens. He's probably our closest source for that kind of thing. But Kieran, you're a man who loves Chinese food. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm still trying to find my favorite Chinese in the Sutherland Shire. So if anyone has a recommendation, or if anyone would like to sponsor the podcast, please let us know, because I found
what's your nominations? What are you thinking?
All right. So I used to work at a Chinese restaurant on the Central Coast, and it's called the Lantern Palace. It's around Womberall, where I grew up, but it's the staff that work there have now moved to the Noodle Bar. So again, I'm talking 20 years ago, but it's the same people that run now the Womberall Noodle Bar. And my favorite dishes there are rainbow steak and salt and pepper chicken, because when I was working as a bartender there, I would constantly get fed that by the kitchen staff, and that was just like the food, my comfort food, right? So I found a place in Sutherland that does rainbow steak. I was the only Chinese place that I found in the Shire. And then I found a salt and pepper chicken in Caringbah as well, right? So if I can work out a way to combine the two on this menu, I think we'll be in a good place.
So I have 2 questions, and I've eaten Chinese food all my life. What the hell's rainbow steak?
So there is a Chinese shop, I think it's called Moon Palace in Caringbah, that
Yeah,
does
that's Moon Palace, yeah.
rusty nail steak. Have you had that?
No.
So basically, it's like the steak is kind of like crispy, but it's like shredded, and then it's also like kind of sweet, soury sauce type on it, but it's like
I like that.
a bit of spice in there too. If you ever see rainbow steak, I think it's something that you should always order if it's on the menu, because it is rainbow steak is, I think, probably one of the best Chinese dishes, but it's not one you see all the time. So my vote is for whoever puts it in this new Chinese restaurant that they put rainbow steak on the menu. And I actually think it was on the menu of the place that was there for a little while, but I never got there, so I didn't get to try it.
Second question was Caringbah and Matt's Moon Palace that you've tried.
Yes, Moon Palace is, well, I've tried a few in Caringbah.
Have you tried the one next to it that's been there forever?
The seafood one?
No, the one like right next to it. There's like a Chinese that's been there forever.
Look,
Shangri-La, maybe? I can't remember.
Yeah, look, again, I don't go to these restaurants. I order them to my house because I'm lazy.
Sure. Oh, okay.
But when I drive past, I do know where Moon Palace is, and there's Caringbah Chinese seafood restaurant, and that's actually
which is very good. Well. It's very good, yeah.
So look, I'm not dissing the quality of Asian food that we've got here, but where I was living in the past, and I lived around Chatswood as well, right? So I lived in some really good Chinese food areas. But I need that combination of everything together.
Now you frequented the Golden Bay Asian restaurant, correct?
No, I didn't go. No, I did not. We planned to go there for a lunch during a captain's run, and we never got to it because I lose my days quite often, as you would know.
Well, I went there a lot, and I really loved it. And it's a shame it's not there anymore. I don't know. I was told that they were looking for someone. I think that's the ultimate goal, is they want to get someone in there, and they want to keep it Chinese just for the tradition over the last 30, 40 years or whatever. So,
well, is there a chance the Sharks take that space over, especially in the meantime while we don't have a leagues club? Is there a chance that we?
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Well, I guess. Look, you don't want to.
That's where the old boys were for their round, because it was raining.
But I think look. Again, don't quote me on this, because again, I'm not a Sharks official or anything like that. But I think from talking to a few of the old boys, it was kind of frowned upon that it was there, because I think of different licensings and all that type of stuff. Sure. Right. So I think you'd have to officially turn it into a restaurant or something like that. But then you also go, right, well, what's the Sharks' core business? It's not running a restaurant in, let's be honest, Woolooware Bay. I was there today. It was actually super busy. It's been really busy the last few weeks.
Oh, cool.
It's building in popularity. But if you go to that food court on a Wednesday or a Tuesday in June, it's pretty quiet, right? So, are the Sharks better off holding off until the Leagues Club is opening and then doubling down on that versus, 6 to 7 months of throwing money at something that might not be worthwhile until the Leagues Club is open?
Josh, what's your favorite Chinese dish?
Satay chicken. Can't go wrong. Nice. There's a place called Food World Asian Fusion on Uber Eats that is outstanding. It's got a lot of great options. I was just actually talking. I was like, I'm going to get it for dinner, and it's closed. Now I'm gutted.
All right. Where is this establishment in real life?
It's doesn't actually have the address on here at the moment, but it's not far. It's local, like very, very local.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good quality, a variety of Asian dishes, soups, chicken, barbecues, like all that sort of thing. So
we should point out, sorry, Josh, we should point out Josh has left the building, so he sends his love and respect to everyone, and he's got a few different Jards. What did I say?
Me.
Josh, you're still here. Great. Jardian's left the building, and he's got a few bits of information we'll pass on as we go ahead. But yes, what are you going to have for dinner now, Josh?
Probably Macca's.
Classic.
Mate, it's 9:30 at night almost. Like, the idea of having dinner to me now is so foreign, because again, I have dinner at 5 o'clock. Like, that's the stage of my life that I'm at, right? Like,
I'm happy to have it at any time, to be honest. I'm happy any time to have dinner.
I'm getting in a panic state. Are you not hungry?
Well, we've been podding for a while, and I wasn't hungry when we started, so
pod make Josh hungry. All right, let's move on to the next wish we have. Okay. This one is both from Kieran and from myself, but we'll explain more on that. Kieran would like a statue built for Paul Gallen, and I'm guessing he wants it outside the ground or at the club, somewhere in the vicinity, of course. Now, this has been raised multiple times over multiple years on this podcast, and I absolutely would love that. I think he deserves one. All I'm going to say on the matter is I wouldn't stop there, in all honesty. I think you need one of Big Bop Andrew Fafita, Kieran's best mate. I've got no problem with a whole range of them, but, let's be realistic. Let's go slow and steady. But I think you could have, even though it's up already painted, I think you could have Gallon ET with the hug, and I think you could definitely have Fafita. I don't know how you do it, but he's got to be putting the ball over the line. So I'm all for it. I've had other people approach me over summer saying we need to push this more. So I'm glad Kieran brought it up. And I think it'd be very fitting for when the Leafs Club opens, whether it's inside, outside, or it's at the ground. I don't really care. But I think that even though a lot has been made of Paul Gallen, like a lot of absolute deserved fuss, and I'm sure deep down he probably actually would be a bit embarrassed by it. I think I'm for it. I think you can't praise these guys enough. They made our dreams come true. Kieran, where would you have the Paul Gallen statue if you had your choice?
So my first instinct was to do the ET and Paul Gallen hugging as a statue.
Yes.
But then the more I think about it, look, we've got that tremendous artwork that's been there and was formerly in Cronulla itself and all that type of stuff, right? So,
yeah,
that's I think that's cemented into Sharks history, right? And I think, as we get a Leafs Club, if, we put that as a wall somewhere one day down the track in 20, 30 years, that's passable. You know what I mean? Like that's always going to live in that moment as a photo. I feel like there needs to be one of Gal holding the trophy because I feel what he went through from the time he joined the Sharks, and I know you're covering this with your Great White series about the change at the club through the Anderson years, into the Raper years, into the Flano stuff, and all that, Ricky Stewart and everything, right? So Gal was one consistent, and this club has been on the verge of going broke so many times, the verge of just non-existence, relocation, blah, blah, blah. But I think the threat was so real around that 2009 period to about 2011 or so. Even earlier, there was a lot of talk. There was talk about us moving to the Central Coast around 2005 to 2007. Throw in the Asada stuff as well. Throw in the fact that he became the New South Wales captain, an Australian leader. He never got the Australian captaincy, I don't believe, but he was, one of the mainstays there. He was the vice captain for a really long time. We don't have a grandstand to name after him. It sounds like potentially we won't have the funding for a grandstand for him. If you go to the stadium in Townsville, you'll see a statue of Jonathan Thurston kicking the field goal out the front of their stadium. And, it's nothing crazy or anything like that. But I think if we've got a Sutherland Shire business that could get behind this and have it donated by, or whatever the case is, that will live in the Sutherland Shire's history. You could not even put it at the ground. You could put it in the new Cronulla Mall, which they're redeveloping, right? You could put it anywhere in the Shire, to be honest with you. You could put it in Sutherland. And I think part of the thing that we need to do as the Sharks is we don't need to just be the Cronulla Sharks. We have to be the Sutherland Shire Cronulla Sharks. Like, it's not just Sharks fans in Cronulla that are diehard Sharks fans. There are Sharks fans in Warrenora. There are Sharks fans in Menai. There are Sharks fans in, all over the place, Kernell.
Yeah.
So we got to embrace that. And I think maybe I personally would put it at the entrance of the ground. It doesn't have to be crazy. And I've just chucked it in a chat GPT asking how much would a statue or gallon
It's not crazy. It's not crazy at all.
It's actually pretty doable. Like, they're saying between, $15,000 for smaller figuratively bronze figures. Now, I don't know how small that is. Probably not like the trophy they gave out with the membership packs. But,
maybe we'll get a bit better likelihood as well than those ones. But I think we looked it up a few years ago, and it was the guy who did the JT one or whoever, or it might have been the infamous Ray Warren won. It was like 30 grand or something. Now that was a while ago, but it was nothing. It wasn't like $1 million, for example.
Yeah.
I like your idea. I like your idea about the fact that we're not just in Cronulla, but I do think it has to be around the vicinity. I don't think putting it in Southo is going to be that great. The only other idea,
if not at the ground, at the mall.
You could put it in the mall. You could. I think ground, Leagues Club. The only other crazy idea I'd have is maybe this side of the Tarrant Point Bridge. You know, just something kind of really, really kooky, and I don't know any Dragons fans coming and going, but
I like it. It has to be done, mate, because at the end of the day, like if you haven't been to Shark Park, and I assume most people have, there is a walkway that is not super wide, and then at one entrance you've got an entrance to a car park for the shopping center. At the other entrance, you have basically the entrance to the apartment buildings, things like that. Yeah. So the road, there's not a lot of space there to put a statue. Now, that's my absolute preference, is to put it there. But if you couldn't, I would go funky, and I would go smack bang in the middle of Cronulla Mall and put it there.
You could put it underneath the Hall of Fame guys or whatever. Like there's room for a statue.
There is. But then also too, like I feel like that is going to expand over time. So you would have more of those banners there, which would be great. And I don't want it to come across as disrespectful to those other players that are up on the wall that, hey, this guy's got a statue, but you don't. I think you'd put it at the other end, at the other entrance. But I don't know if that's my bias, because for the most part, that's usually where I walk in. But now I live at the other side, so I'm walking in the other door. So I don't know if that's just bias.
Well, the other thing is you could, and we don't have any confirmation about how much actual football we're going to see in the Leagues Club, but you could obviously just have it when you walk in the door. Like that'd be pretty badass. Yeah. Josh, where would you have a statue of one of these guys?
Well, just listening to you both, then I was going back and forth in my mind of where I'd want it, but I think I'd land on a really nice, classy walking into the Leagues Club with it like decked out and looking $1 million and having that as like the first thing you see. It was like Gal lifting the trophy, or Gal and ET. I think that'd be a really nice touch, and a lot of people would come through the Leagues Club to get into the stadium as well. So it's always going to be seen and protected. A little bit of safety as well. I'm a bit like precious about that.
Yeah, and from a club point of view, they would like the fact that it would bring traffic through. Oh, we're here now. Let's get a drink or a bit of food.
Have a photo, and then let's go play the pokies.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we all agree on that one. That's a pretty good one. Now, in a similar vein, and this is from young Kieran, I believe, Hall of Fame. He wants Wade Graham, Andrew Big Bop Fafita, his new best friend, and Luke Lewis to go into the Hall of Fame. I would imagine he wants them in next. And this one's a bit off topic. He would reveal it the week of the Dragons home game as a screw you Flano type situation. So take that out of the equation for now, Kieran. Just focus on those three guys and tell us about why them and why they're next and everything else.
Look, we had the Hall of Fame at the start of this season. I think it was such a great way to build up excitement in February for everything that we were doing for the year. And I think it's something that is so important that we continue on with. And I haven't spoke to Ash about this, or I'm not sure of the scheduling around this. Like, is it going to be something that we do every decade? And you don't want to do it every year because then it's going to water it down and all those type of things. I completely understand that. I just look at it and go, well, this is the 10-year anniversary next year of the 2016 grand final. I feel like we need to honor those guys who effectively changed our lives. And I know that sounds weird, but just think about it for a second. Like, think about if Luke Lewis doesn't have that man of the match performance. Think about if Fafita doesn't get that ball down. Think about if Wade Graham took the Cowboys offer instead of the Sharks offer and paired up with Jonathan Thurston in the halves for a few years and never came to the Shire. And don't forget, Wade Graham was the first domino when we were at the bottom, right? We were desperate to sign players, and he was the next big thing, and he was like an 18-year-old half, and Melbourne was chasing him. The Cowboys wanted to put him with Jonathan Thurston. Gal gets on the phone, calls him up, and gets him to the Sharks. And he was that first domino for me, right? After that, he was the guy that brought in the other signatures. He was the guy that helped get Luke Lewis to the club. He was the guy that helped get Fafita to the club, because they were like, well, if Wade Graham went there and he's having fun and Gal's there too, I just feel like those 4 guys are so connected in our Cronulla Sharks history that it's important that they be recognised and put on a pedestal for what they did. And I'm not saying there's people that played, let's say between Brett Kamali and that 2016 side that don't deserve to go in there. I haven't sat down and looked at it. But I just feel like you can retrospectively go back and look after other players that happened in the 90s or 2000s or whatever you want to go to, 80s. But I feel those 3 are so important to what they did for the Sharks and for what they did for us as fans that we need to show them specifically the love, because they all played rep football. They all were, the best players in their position at one point in time. And they all had a hell of a season in 2016 and got us over the line. So I just feel like those 3 guys, as well as Gal, are in a class of their own in terms of Shark history because of the uniqueness of what they did. And you look back at that year and you go, well, Michael Ennis was instrumental for it. Absolutely, right? James Maloney, absolutely instrumental. But those 4 guys were the nucleus that we built on over those rough times, even in 2013, right? When I think that was fifth feet, I think came in 2012, but like 2013 was when Bo Ryan and that came, and it was going to be a great year. And then the Asada stuff hits, right? Yeah. So then it's all over the shop, and you got Wade Graham turning up in a t-shirt at like that young age that he was, and copying it. He easily could have said, "Stuff this, I'm out of here," right? He buckled down, went through everything, and then came out the other side. So those 3 guys for me are just absolutely top tier, and I think need to be put on the same level as any time a club legend is spoke of. I feel like those 3 guys need to be there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Where I would change the timing of it is I would make it round 27, I think it is, whatever the last round is. Melbourne home game, 10-year anniversary, and either you announce it there or pre-game, you have your ceremony, make it a short one.
It's a great idea.
I guess you could make it a half an hour kind of thing. And they each get 10 minutes to have a speech. You time it somehow, but I think that would be epic because it's going to be a sellout. That day. Maybe you got a Leeds club, maybe you don't. But they're pushing towards it, but it might be a stretch. But
imagine that day.
It would be big. It would be big. I'm sure they're doing their best to do that.
Yeah.
But Josh, I don't think you're going to debate this one at all.
No, absolutely not. I mean, Luke Lewis is my favorite Shark of all time. So, like, I'd immortalize that man. I'd like to give him a statue. I mean, what a player he was. And, yeah, like, completely agree with everything you've both said. I think we have to honor our legends in the right way. And I know typically you kind of wait a little longer until a post-retirement and post-career, but I think these guys deserve it. And I'd be there cheering them on, saying congratulations.
All right. Just like you were at the Hall of Fame this year, Josh. I saw a video. We were all suited up. I had good fun there. That was a good night.
Great.
Okay. Well, that's and Kieran, what have you got against Shane Flanagan?
It's more so the fact that he's no longer here, and if you look at how things all played out, you wonder how that whole relationship would have actually ended if it didn't end the way that it did. And, I'm sure that he's a little bit bitter about things, and, he makes the comments, who are we playing this week and all that type of stuff. But look, I think it's just you embrace it. You embrace the local rivalry, and you sort of say, hey, look, Flano, all these guys are still in Shark shirts. Oh, by the way, you got Michael Ennis over there with you. He's not coming in the Hall of Fame with these 3. And you start a riot. So, let's go.
Yeah. Interesting.
Isn't it weird to see Ennis and Flano in Dragon's gear? Like, that's just strange. I know Ennis is the former Dragon, but just seeing them.
Flano, but yeah.
Yeah, I get that with Flano. And then, like, watching them talk to Val Holmes, and it's like, this is 10 years ago, right? And none of those guys, like, Val Holmes would make the Sharks 17, absolutely, right? But Ennis, he retired after that game and, went on the absolute high. Flano was gone pretty quickly after that. I think he lasted, another 1-2 years, right? So it was one of those things where it's kind of like we had this great thing and it just kind of disappeared. And I'll throw Ben Barber in that mix as well because it just all evaporated like that.
It did.
So kind of let's use it as an excuse to poke the bear at Flano and just sort of say, all right, well, you're like 1-6 against the Sharks. Like
a lot of people are pretty bitter about the fact that there wasn't a dynasty, and it's amazing now I think about it how quick it all fell apart. It started with Benny, we know that, but it just wasn't. And it was kind of obvious, I guess, after 2018. It was like, that was our shot there to replicate it, and we didn't do it. And now it's all going to change. Two things, though. Valentine Holmes still goes to the best cafe in the world, Mr. Paisley's. He's spotted there every weekend now. So he knows what side of the bridge to hang out on. And I was also going to say, I've lost my train of thought. Flanagan. Oh yeah. Do you think he would have kept buying stinky players? Like, remember his last year? He just kept throwing checkbooks open and buying just guys who just weren't very good anymore. Like, I think that could have gotten worse and worse and worse year on year. Like, it was just downhill.
It'll go back into that culture thing too, right? And if you look at it, we went out and signed Sean Johnson, Aaron Woods, Josh Dugan, Matt Moylan, all high quality players, but were they Sharks DNA?
Well, I mean, the two guys you mentioned in the middle in particular is who I was thinking of, and it's just like big money, and long deals for some of them. I wonder if it just would have kept snowballing. I want to get that guy for 5 years at $1 million, you know.
Well, you look at like when he left, right? We were forced to go and find the Sifa Talakais, Royce Hunts, and all that type of stuff because we had no money. So, you know, it all works out in the end, but it just shows you how important Mooney is to the club. And I think if I could add one more wish, it's like, let's get Mooney on the podcast next year and get him to talk about what's going on.
Getting closer. He knows my name. He gives me a hello every now and then. I reckon it's getting closer, although I'm told it'll be very hard. He's not a big talker, but we'll see what we can do. Nothing is impossible, that's for sure. Now we move on our Christmas episode. This is, I believe, a Kieran request, and I'm with it too. And it is Coach Fitzgibbon to extend sooner rather than later. And I'll go to Josh on this one. Would you like to see him extend sooner rather than later? You're happy with biding your time? Do you want to see what else he's got up his sleeve? How are you feeling about the coach?
No, I'm keeping him. I'm signing to another big long-term contract if possible. Not because I doubt him whatsoever, but you also just look at what's out there, and it's some garbage coaches. And it's like, with all respect, like, Fitz is probably a top 5 coach anyway already, and where he might be in another 5 years. The only thing I worry about is that he might go, I need a change, and he knows he'll get a job pretty much anywhere. Every single club would be after him that wasn't locked in. So that's my only concern, is that he might go, oh, geez, Trent Robinson's retiring in 3 years. I might go back to the Chooks and, freshen up. So otherwise, sign him for as long as possible.
I reckon that's the only place at the moment that we should be at all worry about. I don't think we should be in the short term, but I think long term, there'd be a part of him that would go, I'm a Hall of Famer there, or whatever the term. He's a life member, like very well respected in the eastern suburbs, as he should be. I'm sure there's a part of him that wouldn't mind that challenge, but I reckon it's understated how much he loves our club. Like, I really do. Not only from a historical point of view, his dad, and he grew up supporting them, etc., but just the way that he respects the players and gets along with them and treats them. And I think he's a long termer. I've said this all along. I think he's a bit of a John Lang. I think he's a 10-year kind of guy. And what's he going into 5 years now? So we've got a while to go. I'm with you guys. I'd re-sign him. I'd give him, if it was within reason, I'd give him what he wanted as far as years and money. It has to be realistic. It has to fit what he's doing. But on the one hand, I love what he does. And on the other hand, as Josh said, there's literally no one to replace him unless you got a Craig Bellamy who's about to retire. Even now, if you said a Trent Robinson, who I historically have liked quite a lot, I personally don't think Fitzy's that far behind him. I really don't. Going into his 5th year. He hasn't won a comp. I get that. I appreciate that. But I don't think he's worlds away from where Trent Robinson is.
I mean, let's see where Trent Robinson is when he hasn't got a side of 16 Origin players. You know what I mean? Like, Fitzy's working with some very good players. Like, don't get me wrong. We have a very good team. Yeah. But he's taking this team way further than it probably should have the last few years, if I'm being completely honest. And I think that's just down to coaching and the kind of man he is. I don't think anyone else besides maybe like a Bennett or a Bellamy. Again, but Bellamy's had, three or four of the best players in the world at any one time every year of his coaching career. So it's like, do any of those guys get this club and this squad where they are?
I haven't thought about what I'm going to say. I don't want to be a bombshell moment, but I don't know if a Wayne Bennett would suit our group of players because he's very much, how do I put it? A very meat and potatoes coach. He's more about the mentality. He's more about the group of guys. He's a bit like Jack Gibson. He's not an X's and O's kind of guy.
Yeah.
Whereas Fitzy's like ball in hand. He's out there every session. He's part of it. And I think the group kind of thrives on that. I don't think if they're left to their own devices, it could get a bit messy. I'm not knocking Wayne Bennett. I think he's probably best, if not second best ever. I'll put Craig Bellamy in there. But anyway, that's all wishful thinking because they're not available. But I just think that I'm with you guys. Kieran, have you heard your say? Talk about Fitzy.
Look, I mean, we're going into 2026. Fitzy is off contract at the end of 2027, right? So if he was an NRL player, he would be one of these guys that everybody's starting to talk about pretty soon, right? They'd be going, he's about to come off contract, all that type of stuff. I think with the man that Fitzy is, he's not going to leave the Sharks until he thinks the job is done or until he's basically decided that it's untenable for him to stay because of falling out with the club, the board, the players, whatever the situation is. Knowing Fitz from the outside, I just don't see getting to that situation. So I think he's in it for the long haul as long as we are committed to him. And I think if you listen to the words that Mace said a few years ago where he said, we want to give him a 20-year deal, that's the viewpoint I think the club has of Fitz. And if you look at it too, our best young players are signed on long-term deals. They're signed way past 27, right? So a guy like Riley Pollard, who's always, that next hyped up guy who could become the next Brett Furman, he could become the next Joey Johns, we don't know. But he's always one guy that always gets brought up as a lower grader with a lot of potential and upside, is tied to the end of 2027, the same as Craig Fitzgibbon. But guys like Fanua Blake, a lot of the squad, Blake Brayley now, extended way past 2027. So for me, I just don't want it to start to become a story. And I don't believe it will because we do a really good job. And the media sometimes tries to turn these into stories like, I'll look at Will Kennedy, I'll look at Jesse Colquhoun. There's not been one word come out of the Sharks about Jesse Colquhoun. It's all been about Perth. There's not been one thing. It's just the Sharks are king. And I think that's how we do business. I think that's the right way to do it. And I think as we move forward, I just want to take the Fitzy thing off the table. Benji Marshall has a 31% career record and is signed now until 2030. Now, you do not want to do business like the West Tigers, but that just shows you right now, they're looking at the market and they're saying, we can't get anybody better than Benji until 2030 at least, right? So they're backing them to develop with him, which, again, I think is lunacy, but that's where the situation that they find themselves in. We have a top 4 roster in the NRL. We have a very good New South Wales Cup side. We have a very good Jersey Flag side with great players coming through. Let's not boil the ocean here. Let's double down on what we did because if you go back 20 years, 25 years, if you look at the John Lang situation and how close we were to success at the time, what is the saying? You don't see the forest through the trees. If we had kept onto that roster with Adam Dykes and Preston Campbell and John Lang for one more year in 2002, do we make that jump? Because he was able to make the jump at Penrith in 2003 with a cast of unknown players, but Preston Campbell and Martin Lang. I'm not saying those two. I'm not saying those two guys changed the game, but what I'm saying is we were so close and we made change for change's sake because we're like, it's getting a bit stale. The Australian coach is available. Let's bring in Chris Anderson. Now, that led to the burning of the whole empire, which led us to Fano, which we came out the other side. So there are pros and cons to that as well. But I look at it and I just say, Fitzy is getting better and better every year, I think. I think his attitude towards the media towards the end of the year was sensational, how snarky he kind of got and, actually pushing back on some of the narratives, which were just absolutely lazy, I think was good. The challenge now for him is to work out this roster that we've got and say, I've got the most out of X, Y, and Z player, and I need to make changes. And if he can do that, he will then take the leap, in my opinion, to get those players to the level that they could potentially be at, free up the money to bring in potentially somebody else. And I think that's when Fitz is. I think if you look at Craig Fitzgibbon, he will be an NRL coach in 2030. He will be coaching an NRL team in 2030. I want him to be coaching the Sharks. I don't want him to take all the lessons that he's learned from now to 2030 and apply them at the Roosters, for example. But again, I think even if Trent Robinson retired tomorrow, I don't think he's going to, as the saying is that James Graham always says, have his head turned from one of Josh's favorite shows, Love Island. He's not going to do that. He's going to be focused on, this is my mission. I'm getting the job done at the Sharks until it becomes untenable. And I don't see that happening.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Josh, before you just hold your train of thought, please. Yep. If the Sharks make the next 3 to 4 prelims in a row and don't make the grand final, or say they make a grand final in those 3 or 4 prelims and don't win, are you guys so desperate for that next step you're looking at a new coach? Or are you guys going, no, we're like one step away, let's keep going, and then you're waiting for like some sort of drop? Because for me personally, because I can see a way it could go where we keep making prelims and for whatever reason don't make the next step, or we make a grand final and lose. I'm not saying we won't win a comp. I'm just saying I can see a way where that happens and the whole world turns on Fitzy because he can't make that one game step. I personally am content to keep going and rolling that dice until there is a dramatic fall. That's just me personally. What do you guys think on that matter? Then Josh, have you say about Kieran? What do you think about that?
For me, if we made, say, 3 of the next prelims, so that's, 5 prelims in a row?
Sure.
I'm looking at the roster at that point saying, guys, like...
Sure. But about the coach.
Yeah, well, but this is what I'm saying. I'm not blaming the coach, right? Again, I look back, so let's assume that we make the next 3 prelims. Assume Blake Brayley makes the jump into representative football. So now we've got one rep over here. We've got Fanua Blake. Fanua Blake at that time would be, at the end of his deal, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at that and I'm saying we've gotten the most out of what we have. And I keep going back to, we don't have the facilities of the other clubs. We don't have the salary caps of third parties and all that other type of stuff. Like, I feel like we're getting the most out of it. I feel like the knock on Fitz is we've got to make changes at some point. And we've just got to the point, if we're 3 years from now and Jesse Ramian, Will Kennedy, Hamlin Ueli, Toby Rudolph are like 34 and they're still in our starting 17, then I'm saying, hey, Fitz, man, like it's I would say it's time to go at that point, because it would be incredible coaching to get them at that level when they're at that age to be that consistent. But at the same time, it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting change. So
yeah, it is. I guess my point, I should have gone full circle, is my point is we're talking about Johnny Lang, and in 2001 he was pushed out of the club, but we made a prelim, if I'm not incorrect.
Yes.
And had a really great team that I'm just speculating here, guessing out of his, say he was there 10 years, they made the finals 8 years and probably made 3 prelims or whatever. Like, he wasn't a bad coach, and in his final year took us to 1 game from a grand final, and then had a stinky year with Penrith because they were stinky, and the next year won the comp with them. I don't think it was a John Lang thing, but the club kind of went, we can't win. Oh, that guy can win. I know I'm going down a tangent here. I don't want to go down that tangent. But see, I would learn from that. And if all indications were it wasn't a coaching thing, I'm not saying it can't be a coaching thing, but say it wasn't really, and it was just the players at the last hurdle, whatever, I wouldn't be making that change, which is why I'm thinking long-term with Fitzgibbon.
Yeah, and look, I'll let Josh answer this in a second. Sorry for jumping back in again. But I'm just looking at this and going, all right, well, it wasn't just Lang that we moved on. We moved on Matt Rogers at that year. And Matt Rogers at the time was 25. We moved on Adam Dykes. And so, again, like if you look at the core there, we're moving on guys in their prime with John Lang at the same time. And that's not going to be the case for us. And
why in hindsight did we let Matt Rogers go? Because he wanted to be a half or closer to the ball. And the new coach coming in said, no, you're a winger and I love you. You're the best winger in the world. Stay there. So the new person they brought in, and again, I don't want to go on that tangent. I'm not being a smart ass. The new coach, the new superstar coach, already got that one wrong and let Matt Rogers go at age 25. Now, there were other reasons there. I know that. Yeah. But
so my point to that, though, is in the world where Fitz is staying on as coach, he wouldn't let Matt Rogers walk out the door, because he would have spent 5-6 years with him and knows what he's capable of, understood him as a person and his desires to move closer to the football, and thought, you know what, we can work with this, or came to a compromise with him, maybe it's centre, maybe something else, right? So I feel like, the John Lang thing is the perfect example, because I think we should learn from those lessons. But also at the same time, I think that if we get to 3 years' time and we haven't seen an evolution from Fitz, and we're at this stalemate now where it's like we've just let a ton of great young players go. But again, I don't see us getting to that world, so I don't want to go down that tangent.
Fair enough. Josh, go ahead, please. Sorry to keep you waiting.
That's all right. Just to circle back a little bit from the conversation.
Please.
When we're saying, like, if we can have Fitz to like that 2030 kind of area, or like that's where we envision maybe like the success coming, even if it takes that long. Craig Bellamy, Trent Robinson, Wayne Bennett, they all may not be coaching anymore. So I think you've got to think, like, because Craig is such a young coach, he's in that next echelon of being like the next superstar coach. And I think it's been pretty widely publicized that that's what a lot of people expect and think. So you want him to stick around, because then he's got his fingerprints in and outside of that club, of this club. And there's maybe not going to be any of those like superstar coaches to kind of contend with. And it's like, if we just hang in there, and if he keeps making prelims or Jags a grand final, that it becomes more viable the longer he's there, I think, as opposed to wearing out or getting stale, because if he can keep, and that's why I'm so crucial of flipping the squad, because it'll keep it fresh for him.
Yeah.
His ideas, he can probably reuse some of them without thinking, oh, the squad's heard this for 4 years now. Like, he's able to reuse some of those, the tactics and the plans, and adapt and change. And I think it's why it's so crucial. Like, long-term coaches, we see in NRL specifically, are the most successful.
Yeah. It's a great point. Great point, Josh. Okay, so we all agree we want Fitzgibbon to stay. Now, we should point out, Josh, that we have so many terrific listeners and viewers. We'd love to know what they think. So if you want to let us know about some of our ideas, or if you have your own thoughts and wishes for next year, please let us know. You know how to get in touch. No pressure to do that, but if you do, we'll try and get them on the show in some way or fashion. Now, we're getting towards the end of our wishes. We've got 2 left by my count. And this one is a pretty important one. Kieran's going to want to hear about this one. This is from Clinton. He wants, and we've done this one before, but it's still very topical. He wants a new logo. He wants to keep the current one for 26 to pay respect for the 10 years winning it in that logo, which Josh loves. He'll remind us about that shortly. But then he wants to move on. It's enough. And I just have a note here from Jardian, and he said, it's either what I'm wearing. So for people who aren't watching, it's the classic 80s shark logo. Is that how you'd say it, Kieran? Any other description for it?
Yeah, that's what 80s, 90s logo. I think it did come in the 70s, but yeah, 80s, 90s.
Early 90s, yeah. We'll say 80s. 80s will definitely get you there. And he said it's either that or what Josh is wearing for the next 15 years, which is the current one. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a weird thing from Jardian to say, but we can't get him to say anymore because he's gone. Oh, so his point is don't give him a Bulldogs type adaptation. So that's his point. It's either the 80s one or the current one. Don't give him an adaptation. That's quite interesting, actually. Josh, remind everyone how much you love the current logo and why.
Well, it's what I grew up on, and I guess that's that's why, Sam, you love the one you're wearing. That's why Clinton loves that one, or wants the adaptation. I have an affinity to this because it's what made me fall in love, and I think the fact that we won our first grand final in it, I hold very dear to my heart. And I think it's quite a unique design. I know a lot of people really don't like it, but I think I love it because of its uniqueness. And I think my biggest point about this discussion is the modern day logo, not to forget sports, like modern day logos are so... The contemporary logo is very plain and boring and safe. And they're all like, you look across Premier League, now NRL, NBA, there used to be these expansive, artistic, swashbuckling kind of designs. And now they're all, they want it as small as possible so they can fit it on everything. They can slap a logo on, and they want them as concise and easy to draw and remember as possible. And I hate it. I think it's a disgrace that we're losing so many good sporting logos. And I know that if we do it, it'll be this small little circle with a little shark in it, and it won't have the writing of Cronulla Sutherland on it. It will have no badge or like any shield. It'll just be a small little circle shark, and I don't want that.
You don't think we'll have our name on there?
I think it'll just be a little shark circle, exactly like the Bulldogs, and I think that Bulldogs logo is a disgrace. And I know that's what we'll do because that's what everyone's going to do, and I want to hold on to this for as long as we can.
So, just on the current one, which you're wearing now, so everyone, if you're not watching, just imagine the current logo. I could potentially, and I say potentially, so I'm not going to be held to this, but off the top of my thoughts, potentially live with the shark, but I need new writing to what you have there. The writing to me is just way too dated is the word I would use, as in the font and the style. You keep the words. I want to keep the words. I love those 3 words. Love those 3 words more than life, but I'd have a different look to the text. On your point about me loving the 80s one because I grew up with it, it's a great point. I'm not going to deny that, but I just genuinely think it's a better looking logo than the one you're wearing. But again, that could just be biased because I grew up with it. But I actually think if I take myself out of the age equation, I actually like it better. Now, it's not the meanest looking shark or anything. It's kind of cute in its own way. It's almost like a whale, but I don't know. I quite like it. But Clinton wants a new one. Now, you're right, Josh, because if we want a new logo, it could be less desirable than the one we have to people like me who don't really desire the current one as it is. It could be worse, is my way of saying that. So we've got to be careful what we wish for here, but there's got to be maybe just an in-between to update it or just refresh. I'm in Clinton, and we can keep it for next year and celebrate 2016. These things, as we've spoken about, do take a number of years to happen. The NRL have licensing rules and regulations. It's not a quick fix. It takes, I believe, at least 2 seasons to sort of make happen.
Yeah.
So by the time you put in your application, then it's quite a long process. Now, is there a way to speed it up? I'm not sure, but it's a topical one. It's a fun one. I love talking about logos. I'm trying to think back. I don't mind the 70s black and white one, which they played the grand finals in. I wouldn't go back to the original one because that's quite controversial in this day and age with the it's the Endeavour ship, right, Kieran? Is that what it is? Yeah, it's, so I can understand that's quite controversial. The one after with the black and white sharks, pretty cool, but maybe that's too old. Like maybe it looks like it's from the 30s. I've got no idea. Kieran, what's your thoughts on logos and what should we do? And
so there was a rumor a few years ago that we were going to get a new logo pretty soon. So I think maybe that's why Clinton's brought this one up. I think if you went back and watched the Dolphins documentary on Stan Sport a few years ago when they were bringing them into the club and they were talking about the jersey and the logo and how important it was, there's a few little things that they kind of hit as design type of things that they wanted to make sure that they nailed. One thing was that the animal was facing inwards, like towards the heart, which is how South is. The South logo looks, as is the Dolphins. And if you look at ours goes the other way. So I mean that's just like one of the design things that they're going through right now that just doesn't hit the modern brief of how we should do it. If you look at the original Shark, it goes the other way. Maybe that was something that we did at the time. I will send you a post, Sam, after we get done here, from Full Bore, who Full Bore did a lot of the logos, and they might have even done the current Sharks logo, but they definitely did the star logo of the Sharks. And it lists 20 different options. And I think it's something that you could maybe post and let's get people to have a look at because it's so fascinating to look at when we went down the star route, that the different options and why the Sharks went with the star. And
I wasn't a huge fan of the star. I love the era, but just looking at it.
The thing is, I was not a fan of the star. But now going back, when I get a jersey that has the star on it, I like it.
It's cool, yeah.
And it's something that's unique, right? And if you look at it, like that existed for like a 4-year period of the Sharks' history, right? I remember the controversy when this came out with the shield because everyone's like, oh, it looks like Arsenal with a shark, like It just what
yeah.
what are we doing, right?
Yeah.
And now I look at the shield as probably the one thing that I've never liked about this current logo, this one here.
Mhm.
I don't like the shield, and if it was in a circle, maybe I would feel different about it. So maybe there's ways you could tweak the current one. I'm
Maybe.
completely with Josh. My biggest fear is that we put out a cartoony like the Bulldogs. Even just the fact it's a floating bulldog head, it doesn't look like a logo. It looks like some weird sticker or like a jib on a croc or something like that. Like it just doesn't fit.
The problem with a lot of these decisions too is that there's a lot of people weighing in on it, and the more you weigh in on it, it'd be like if we took it to the fans who we love, like all the Sharks fans, and you got 20,000 people to vote on it. Well, of course you're going to get so many different responses. Like you might get a majority of something, and maybe that's the way to go. I'm not saying no, but at board level, at corporate level, I should say, there would be a bunch of people having their say about what, and maybe they all agree on one and happy days and we all love it. I'm not saying that's not possible, but these things are so hard to perfect, and that is a danger. I admit that, and I'm sure Clinton's aware of that danger too. But look, at the end of the day, if we keep that current logo forever, I'll be able to sleep at night. It'll be fine. I understand that it's not the biggest issue in the world, but it's important. It's who you are. It's over your chest. It's who you play for. It's branding. Yeah. So, maybe when the Leagues Club is here, maybe that's a thought. Maybe it'll be some other sort of celebration. I'm not sure.
Couldn't do it because, like, you look at now, you go past the Sharks Stadium. Like, we've put up these big things with the Sharks logo, like into the buildings, all type of stuff. Yes, you can change it, but there's a cost to that, right? So if we're going to open a new league club, if it has any sort of branding on it, you would be branding it and then effectively binning it and then redoing it a few months later. Like it just
it's a very good point you bring up. There's a budget attached to all of this. And that is part of the budget would be, Cronulla, we have to repaint everything. And the new club, or not so much the new club, but outside where you were talking about, like every location, there's that thing, you got to, in theory, change it. But my argument to that is there's priorities. So Cronulla's important. Like, let's change that. The signage outside the stadium, that's important. Change that. But, the logo, which is for some reason in Loftus or making it up or whatever, it's fine. Like you don't need to change every single logo. It's more just anything that's kind of corporate and contemporary. Eventually you got to get to it, but that's part of the process.
Well, the one thing I did notice is if you go to Bay Central at Woolaware, they have the Sharks logo, but it doesn't say the Cronulla Southern Sharks. It says like the Sharks. It's like the Shark, but then it says like Sharks Leagues. So maybe that becomes like the Leagues Club logo, and then you have the footballing club, which would eventually you could fade out. Because my whole point of it is if you have any sort of logos, and there has been talk about the new, the new Leagues Club not being like a footy club, like it being more of a destination place for the Shire and stylish and all that type of stuff. Not so daggy with like football at the forefront type thing, right? Like kind of like if you go to Canterbury Bankstown one, it's you're in a Leagues Club. You don't really realize that unless you go to the sports bar. It's like you're in a facility. So maybe it wouldn't be that. But my whole point is just we don't have cash to burn. So I can't see us putting any Sharks logo in a Leagues Club and then saying, all right, well, 5 months later, well, let's say we get it going in October before the Christmas rush. And then we probably would announce a new logo around November 1st when the new contracts kick in for players and new merchandise comes out. So like, I can't see logo anytime soon.
It's a continuing problem, but if you want to get it done, you got to get it done. Like there's no easy way around it. It's going to be costly and it's going to be painful, but you're going to have an amazing, hopefully, logo. So we'll wait and see on that one.
To have the actual logo designed, I think they charge a pretty penny for that as well.
I don't want to be like weird about it, but there's ways around that, Josh. Like there really is.
Yeah.
Like there are ways around that. So that's just my opinion on that matter. We've got one more topic to hit before we get out of here, and we're going to get out of here real soon so you guys can go celebrate Christmas with your families. But this is from myself and from Kieran. I'm sure Josh, Clinton. We got to point out Cam Webb is in New York City. and having a great time in the snow. And he's having such a good time, he couldn't send us his wishes for next year, but I reckon he'll be in on this one. And that is, we want to win the premiership. Now, that's an obvious statement, but we're in the window. The window's open. There's a stick holding the window open. It's open. We can all get through it. And we want to win a premiership. Is it a failed season if we don't win a premiership? I tend to believe it's not, because it's such a bloody hard thing to do. But having said that, we're definitely aiming for it. There's no reason in theory why we can't do it. We've gone close the past 2 years, and that's what we all want to do. Now, before we go, fellas, I did get some nice correspondence. I get correspondence a lot, but I got a really nice one I need to read out. And it's just really nice. So it's from Brad. Brad's a regular listener, and Brad said, he said, I say it every year, but your pod really does help so many get through the daily grind of life. No matter how bad things get in life, we can always put your pod on and you make things seem better. You really do help so many, and I want you to know that. 2025, what a ride from Vegas to Melbourne, was a roller coaster, but I have a feeling next year just may be a special year. Merry Christmas to you and the SharkCast crew. That is from Brad. So first of all, Brad, we appreciate those words. It's beautiful to hear. And I did reply and I said, not only do we appreciate your support, but we love that you receive the show in that manner. So that's not us blowing smoke up our bums. That is us saying thank you to our listeners and viewers, especially the ones who we are able to be part of their daily life and perhaps bring something that we don't even know we're doing, boys. We're just talking about the Sharks, but Brad, for example, appreciates it for different reasons. So we really appreciate that. I know we all have podcasts that we listen to that give us similar feelings. And for us to be that for at least one person is amazing. So thanks, Brad. And of course, thank you to everyone who listens, watches, contributes, the whole deal. I'm not going to go through everything that we do and every way you guys and girls listen, but please know we appreciate it. And of course, I appreciate everyone that comes on this show, people like Kieran and Josh and the rest of the crew. And even the people, especially people like after when we win or lose, we do the live shows and they come on, they have their say, people we don't know, people from faraway countries and places. It's unbelievable. So thank you very much. Josh, looking forward to a big year next year, my friend.
Yeah, can't wait. I mean, this year has been one of the most fun years it's ever been to be a Sharks fan. And regardless of winning comps or not, like just to the little community we have here, led by you and you allowing us to come on the show and just waffle about the thing we love the most. And like, always appreciate you, like when you go above and beyond for me as a mate, let alone a Sharks fan. Like the amount of times you've gotten us tickets and gotten us, taken me to the what do we go to at the start of the year? The bloody
Hall of Fame.
Like just those things, like really appreciate you as always, my man.
Well, it's special. Thank you very much. Not looking for that. And Kieran, I got to say, it's been a ball sitting with you at the game for the last few years. You certainly ride the emotions. Sometimes you have emotions that I would like to express and I don't for whatever weird reason. But I'm looking forward to doing it again, man. It's gonna be a big year for the pod, big year for the Sharkies, and I guess at the end of the day, I know I say it a lot and I say it enough, but I can't say it enough that we appreciate everyone who makes this happen, whether it's the listeners, the viewers, other people who help us out. The Sharks Club do heaps for us. Many things which people don't know about. So it's a lot of love tonight in the SharkCast. I really appreciate it. I hope you both have a very lovely Christmas with your beautiful families and everyone else listening. And we do know we put a little asterisk that Christmas isn't for everyone, whether it's a spiritual thing, whether it's you got difficult circumstances, the whole thing. We know it's not for everyone. We're just having a bit of fun tonight about Christmas, but whatever you're doing over the next few days, do it safe, do it as fun as you can. And we'll be back before you know it, I reckon, with another episode. Kieran, talk to you soon, my man.
Can I say one thing, mate? How bad is Gary Nova?
Shocking.
Just doesn't
Sure.
turn up. And because this is at 1 hour 59 minutes, I doubt that he will make it this far to listen to it. So we can say whatever we want about him. And when I see him, it's on site. When I see him at Woolooware Bay, it's on site.
Yeah,
he'll
listen. He'll listen. He listens all the way through. He's a regular listener. So it's good that we raise the fact that he's absolutely brushed us. And I'm sure he's got a good reason. But Gary Dover is a man of mystery. I'll leave it at that.
He's got 500 kids at Christmas. He can't make time for us. Like, come on, man.
I know, we're like his kids as well.
Exactly.
All right. On that note, we're going to love you and leave you. Up Cronulla. We rule the world. We are the greatest club in the history of the world. Don't you ever doubt it. Don't you ever forget it. And we'll be back to talk to you real soon. Up Cronulla. Happy, merry, everything. Let's go.